You've been called the father of the modern West Palm Beach. After all of this growth and development, can you tell us, what does this next phase look like?
Well, I mean, the phase, Palm Beach has always been a place where people look at where your grandparents live, where the wealthy live, and the change that's occurring today is really a result of everything that's really happening in this country. The great change that's taking place across the country as we're in the third industrial revolution, plus the change in politics, economics, demographics. So, when you look at it, while Palm Beach has been a place for where people have gone for vacations, second homes primarily. It's just a great place. It's probably one of the best places in America today, if not the best, to really do business.
So you said business. I mean, can you let us in to what you're seeing in terms of the office development here? Obviously, you just secured this huge $772 million construction loan, a record for Florida, and you've got big plans. But what are you expecting in terms of corporate relocations and the future of business here?
Well, I think this will become Palm Beach County, the most important county in this country. But that's when you have to really look and see what's going on and why, because that's a bold statement, to really believe that. I believe it.
Most important how? How are you defining that?
What do you mean by how?
I mean, what does it mean to be the most important county?
Well, I think it will attract businesses, the important, impactful businesses in the future of our country. I mean, it's like, I look at this as like the next Silicon Valley, if you will. And I think people, where they've never looked at South Florida as a place, look at it, it's been the fastest growing state. The why? It hasn't been led by business expansion. It's really been always led by second homes, people coming here, retirement, resorts, and seeing what's gone on like in Orlando with the tourism business. That's continued to grow. So that's where the growth has really happened to date. But when you look at it, that's not the really kind of business growth, corporate growth, and the things that really kind of move America. And I think that's what's going to happen here. And the impact of South Florida and Florida as a business state, hasn't happened, but I believe it will happen. And the best place where it will happen will be here in Palm Beach County.
So it's interesting you said the next Silicon Valley. I mean, I think a lot of the industry here has historically been finance centered. I mean, why do you see this becoming a tech hub? Obviously, you have the ServiceNow, big tenant happening, but what else do you see, and why does it make sense for it to be here?
Well, I mean, it makes sense when you see what's going on in California. I mean, when you talk to the tech investors there, the venture capital firms, doing business in California there's so many restrictions. It is so difficult, and so much added cost. And corporations go where business, they can operate, they can make profits, and government has the least amount of interference. And today, look at in California, they're debating if there's going to be a billionaire's tax.
Yes.
I mean, that's frightened every person that's there. But it's just what California has become. And so I think you see the flight from California, a lot of it's gone so far to Austin, to Texas, Dallas, Denver, certainly Tennessee, and North Carolina. But Florida, when you look at Florida as a business state, it has so many advantages. So, and I think that, it's a lot like when you look at San Francisco and, how did Silicon Valley happen? I mean, it happened because of the financial resources in San Francisco and Stanford University. And it became, and you saw Silicon Valley with the government, with the Defense Department really looking for that technology that really, kind of grew our country. And so and then you look and see where California is today, and you know people who are the venture capitalists and, you know, kind of like want to get out of California because of the restrictions are there, the taxes, the cost of doing business there, the cost of living there. And so this is what's really opened up opportunities for other states, you know, across the country.
Yeah, and obviously we have seen Larry Page's big Miami purchase. I mean, and you've mentioned venture capital a couple of times. Is that an industry you're actively talking to about sort of coming here?
Well, I mean, what has really grown are startups, you know, that have grown into large companies. And that's really what dominates, you know, the growth of, so you have to be in an environment that really encourages and has the ability for startups to grow, which means you got to attract young people. And that's what we have to do here in South Florida.
Yep, and we're going to come back to education, which is obviously one way I think you're trying to do that. But you, on the topic of taxes, I mean, we've talked about California. What are you hearing from your friends in New York about the new mayor, and do you expect that to have any impact?
I don't think, you know, you haven't really seen the impact yet. You know, if everybody's fears, you know, come to light, you know, it could be a lot like what San Francisco went through, you know, with that type of government. And that lasted 4 years, but it did really great damage to San Francisco. I mean, now they're fighting their way through it, and you just don't turn around a city overnight when the kind of damage that's been done there, you know, and how people feel about it. I mean, San Francisco is now back on its feet, doing well. I mean, the biggest reason is AI. It's the AI capital of the country today, which is what everybody is looking, you know, to really see how they benefit from it and how they can, you know, what it can do for growth in different parts. But I think that New York can't go through good times because the ideals that he stands for is not good for business. It's not good for really, we've never seen it work anywhere. And so why should it work in New York, you know, with those type of ideas?
So one of the things that when people talk about factors that might limit growth in South Florida is the infrastructure. Education has, you know, come up quite a bit in that conversation, from K to 12 and then also in terms of a workforce pipeline. You've gotten quite involved in trying to change this. Can you tell us, you know, how you see the Vanderbilt campus changing things here? There was an announcement earlier this week that's moving forward, and what we might expect.
Well, I mean, you've never seen a place really grow without a great university, and Vanderbilt being a top 10 university, especially in engineering and business, dealing with, you know, AI today and innovation, that's so important for any city to have a great university. And the fact that we were able to get Vanderbilt, you know, other cities, they're looking to grow, they see what's going on in the country, and they want to have a real impact as a university. They have a great chancellor of it. And so we were, you know, I know Miami tried to get them, and they elected to come here to West Palm Beach, which says a lot. I think
you had something to do with that, perhaps, but yeah.
Well, I mean, you know, we made it. They had their opportunities. We kind of worked with the city and the county in making that happen and attracting to them and trying to sell the idea. Gave a little money for it, but you know, that didn't hurt.
Yeah.
But I mean, I think they saw the benefits of what's here in Palm Beach County and where there are the seeds for growth and opportunity.
So you mentioned engineering, AI. Do you see them as sort of a key cog in how Palm Beach becomes a Silicon Valley, if you will? I mean, just in terms of supplying the tech talent that you would need for that to happen?
Absolutely. I mean, because, you know, the startups, I mean, you want to, that's why you talk about bringing the venture capitalists here. You want to create an environment where startups are here, businesses start up. Look how these companies have grown that started up in Silicon Valley. You know, or San Francisco. And that's why, you know, that is the capital. That there's more people involved in tech out there than probably any other place in the world. You know, I don't know what's going on in China, but I mean, it's in this part of the world anyway.
What about defense tech? I think you know, you made reference to that earlier. Do you think that's something that has a future here?
Yeah, I mean, if you look at it, of the 5, you know, major tech, military divisions or southern commands, or the commands, I would say, 3 of them are in South Florida. So, I mean, South Florida has a real connection to the defense industry. Vanderbilt is the only school in the country that has a program involved in teaching defense. And so, I mean, we're having a conference that Vanderbilt is heading up with AWS dealing with defense technology in this February. That will probably be an annual thing. I think that would be a big growth factor here in Palm Beach County. It's here already that most people don't know about with all the defense companies that are here, but that will only grow, I think, as people see the opportunities and where the defense industry is really going.
Any tenants, potential tenants in this space you're talking to right now? Or?
Well, I mean, not that have really, you know, in our buildings, primarily I think they'll be different. They won't be necessarily in downtown buildings. I think there'll be some of the headquarters will be there, and some of the startups, you know, maybe. But they need obviously cheaper space and more industrial type space. But I think that you're definitely going to see a lot of that.
What about K through 12? I mean, you've also tried to start tackling that supply-demand problem. Tell us a bit about what's happening with your school in Wellington.
Well, I mean, you know, you can't have companies want to expand in an area without having great education. And you know, since the decision is made by the CEOs, the C-suite, and when you talk to those type of people, they're saying, where are my kids going to go to school? So you got to make sure the decision makers have a place where their children, you know, can go to school. And going to school is really all about getting into great universities. So it has to be a very, you know, competitive, excellent, you know, educational school. We were fortunate to find in Wellington, we're starting a K through 12. It was an international school. They have, they were located in Southeast Asia, in Singapore. They have 14 schools. It's called Education in Motion. Here, I forget the name of it, but it was Windgrove, you know, and it's really very highly rated, and they're going to, you know, be going out to Wellington, and we're really working with them. We've, you know, kind of found them, and they're all on board. And then we have another excellent, highly prestigious K through 12 school that I cannot announce.
Is that closer to here, or is that in West Palm, or what?
It'll be in West Palm.
Okay.
We'll be able to announce that probably in the next 30, 60 days.
Well, you could announce it here if you wanted to. I mean, just saying,
well,
you know.
Let's put it this way.
Yeah.
I cannot announce it here. I'm under an NDA, so therefore I will not announce it here. But I can just say, when you have 2 schools and people seeing, you know, the opportunities here, and you're seeing the growth, and you can just feel in the air the growth that's occurring here as the city is really developing. I mean, and it's developing because it has great political leadership, and it wants to grow, and it wants to be, you know, the kind of the model city for the future in this country. And I think anybody living here can feel it. It's a question of how we communicate that to, you know, third parties and to the rest of the country.
Can you talk a bit about the Cleveland Clinic and why that is also something that was so important to you, and how that will change things here?
Well, you know, I mean, having a great hospital, or at least a very good hospital, We don't have that here. I mean, the joke about Palm Beach and living in West Palm Beach, if you get sick, where do you go? The answer was to the airport, So, I mean, we had to really, correct that. So we were able to get Cleveland Clinic. There were a number of other hospitals that wanted to come. I mean, we took the lead, found the site for them, and really kicked off their campaign. They're going to build a new 200-bed plus cancer center, first-class hospital, much like they've done in London and in Abu Dhabi. And Cleveland Clinic is probably rated the first or second best hospital system in the country. So having, that type of brand, Vanderbilt, that type of brand, there's other, and bringing that and showing what they see in the opportunities and the benefits of being here in South Florida, I think is very, very important.
So education, healthcare, I mean, these are both industries whose workforce might have trouble affording parts of Palm Beach. I mean, how do you see tackling that issue?
Well, I started my career in building affordable housing, and we're still today probably one of the largest owners of affordable housing in the country. And you certainly, you have to really tackle that issue. It's really workforce housing here. And so, we have a number of sites. We understand it. We know they go hand in hand. And you can't have the kind of growth that, I'm talking about or thinking about without understanding you have to have the affordable housing to go with it. But when you really talk, and it is here. I mean, everything, the prices are rising everywhere. I mean, that's one of the biggest, that's going to be one of the biggest issues in the country going forward is finding affordable housing for people, But you can buy today for probably $350,000 starter homes, 20 minutes from West Palm Beach, from the center of West Palm Beach. So there is housing here. The cost of developing it is a lot cheaper than most other places. Nothing is inexpensive, but I think that, and I think the state recognizes that. And I know, working with a council of 100, and in the state, we will have answers to really reduce that cost of housing. And that's really for sale housing, as well as rental housing. And when we looked at this and seeing what, building office buildings and trying to sell the region, you have to have all these things covered, the education, the housing, and recreation, and putting it all together. And we've been working on this for about 3 years. I mean, since the pandemic, when I saw what the opportunities were, and we've concentrated on really solving the issues, the infrastructure issues, and so that when we do approach corporations, everybody's looking to say no. When you have a new idea and someone hasn't done it before, and they're looking to say, what's the what, we can't do that, you don't have this. So we really spent all of our time the last several years dealing with the education, dealing with the hospitals, dealing with the amenities, that people want, golf courses and building those. So we have the infrastructure here, working with the city and making sure that the existing residents, the young kids, have the education to fulfill the jobs that are going to be needed. And so, so you have to look at it, at the whole of what you need to do it. And I think that's what we've done. But having done that is why we are so optimistic about what the future and why people will see the benefits here in Palm Beach County.
Are you looking at doing more development in the workforce housing space?
You need it. They go hand in hand.
Yeah.
If that's not done, you're not going to attract companies. You've got to have everything, and you have to have the answers, and you got to show that these aren't ideas. This is reality, and it can be done and will be done.
Switching gears slightly, you brought up entertainment, and I wanted to talk about that. I mean, you own the Dolphins. You're involved in F1, tennis. You've got a big college football game coming up, I do believe, next week. Concerts, and you've got more going on. I mean, what is your vision for South Florida as an entertainment hub?
Well, I mean, I look when I bought the Miami Dolphins now, you know, that was pre-pandemic. That was probably 15 years ago. And I looked at it, and I went to high school in Miami, so it's not like I'm a transplant, and I am not a New Yorker. I'm from the Midwest, so I kind of understand a lot more of what's going on here, and having grown up in Miami. And Miami is a great entertainment capital, as you well know. There's only 1 hour from here to where Hard Rock Stadium is. So it's very accessible throughout all of South Florida there. And so I looked at it when I bought the team, not only was it about winning, haven't done a good job of that, but it was also how you impacted the whole metropolitan area, which is South Florida. And so, you know, we have done things. When I saw that the Miami Open tennis tournament on Key Biscayne was going to move because they couldn't grow in Key Biscayne, and they were either going to go to Orlando or Mexico, you know, I kind of stepped in and said, hey, we could do it at our stadium. And people doubt, how are you going to do it at a football stadium? And we did a plan and everything, and we convinced the USTA that, hey, it can work here in Miami. And we put together an environment, a tennis environment, that was probably only second to the US Open, you know, in New York. And so based on that success and keeping it there, when Formula One was looking for a race, they wanted to be in downtown Miami. And a street race. So and they asked us if we could, you know, put it together for them. And so we did our homework. When there was no way you were going to be able to have a street race, you know, they wanted to be on the water. And I said, we could do it at our stadium. We had this land. And they said, no thanks. And they came back 6 months later, and they said, you know, what are your plans? How are you going to do that? Because they found no other place they could do a street race. So we showed them, and now that has been like an economic boom, an economic development boom for South Florida. All of it, I mean, it's over $100 million a year, you know, in benefits to the region here. So, I mean.
And you invested quite a lot in that, didn't you? Or?
Well, all of it.
Yeah.
So the answer is yes. But it's here, you know, we have a long-term contract with them. We've invested a lot of money in building the paddock area and other things that you need, you know, amenities for it. And so, you know, what I saw when I bought the team and the land around it, that we bought at the same time, that wasn't part of the team, you know, I saw the idea of creating this entertainment center for South Florida. And because you have a responsibility when it's just not owning a football team, you know, it's really brings the communities together. And I think that's so important. That's, you know, part of the obligation. It's like a utility, and it's so important to the, you know, really the lifeblood of the cities. So, and it's worked out very well, you know, for us, but it's really been great for South Florida, and making it that much more of an exciting place to live, you know, and really attract tourists as well.
When you look at your offerings, is there anything that's missing at the moment from sort of a sports or entertainment perspective?
What's missing?
Yeah.
Winning.
Winning, okay. And you also do have the World Cup games coming up this year. I'm curious, you know, I mean, what kind of demand do you see for those, and how you're preparing for it?
Well, I mean, we have, I think, 6 or 7 games at our stadium, you know. And so, I mean, basically, we don't make a lot of money. I mean, it's really served the World Cup and FIFA, who really runs the games, you know, really take over the stadiums from us. They take over all the responsibilities. And so we really provide it. It's more for the community, more for the country, because all, you know, the spotlight is on us. I mean, you know, in their infinite wisdom, they gave us a game with Colombia, and we all know what happened last.
Yes.
You know, and that's something, you know.
I'm sure you're hoping not to replicate. Yes.
I mean,
yes.
you know, there's, yes, that really concerns me, and we really, you know, we're really focusing to make sure that that doesn't happen. You know, but I certainly wasn't happy to know that Colombia, you know, we have a game with them, and certainly will have a lot of interest. They'll be sold out, but
I'm sure there's a lot of security.
Yeah, a lot of security issues.
Yep. Zooming in on the Dolphins, and I know you do not want to talk about your hunt for the next coach unless you've changed your mind.
I will not talk about
Okay.
that.
But I did want to ask you about the ownership structure. You were among the first to sell a stake to private equity. Why haven't more teams done that, do you think?
I mean, you know, today owning an NFL franchise is probably one of the most valuable assets in this country, you know, and you've seen it going up in value, you know, at levels that no one would ever have believed. I mean, I sold a piece because I saw the opportunities here, so I would have enough capital that I didn't have to really go sell hard my ideas to raise capital to do it. And so, and I saw the returns were better. So we sold, you know, roughly a 10% interest to private equity. Still have 100% control.
Yes.
And so I thought it was a good use of, and the valuations are just incredible.
Do you think do you think they'll keep going up, or what do you see happening with
Yeah, I think
valuation?
they'll keep going up because I think media rights to sports is something that's so unique today, and the demand for it is so great. And the NFL is really the premier brand in the world. I mean, or at least in this country, for sports. I mean, if you look at football today, football is more popular than all the other sports combined. So, and just watching what the media rights and what they're able to obtain, and now with the competition that they have for those media rights, adding in all the you know, the Amazons and the Netflix, competing with the networks, you know, the price I think will continue to rise. So it really makes it that much more valuable of an asset.
So what's the general sentiment among owners about private equity, and do you think more firms are going to get approved to buy stakes? What do you see happening with that?
I mean, first of all, the rights that they have, that the league allowed for it to happen. One, you can only sell 10%. They have no rights. They don't even have rights to look at the financial statements. So, I mean, that's so. But I think, you know, people look at it and why would they buy it is really the question. You know, it's like, why do people buy gold? You know, but I also think people are buying interest that they'll sell to their clients. The private equity firms, because I think people want to kind of say, today football is so popular that they want to be part of a team. They want to be involved, so people can say, I'm an owner. You know. And I think that has a lot to do with it as well. I mean, you know, today there is so much capital out there at certain levels, you know, people are looking for places to do it. So why not invest in something that you believe is going up, even though the values are higher than you could ever believe, but at the same time, they're going higher. So, and you have the enjoyment, the psychic enjoyment of really watching and cheering for something you own. So I think, you know, that has a lot to do with it, and I think people will see that as a reason why they, you know, why they'll continue to invest.
So the firm that bought the stake was Ares, obviously,
right.
And they also led your construction loan. I'm just interested in the partnership that you have happening with them.
Well, I mean, we had 3 or 4 other firms that offered. We had a relationship with Ares.
Yep.
They're really terrific, and we did other business with them, and so I mean, it was just natural for me to go to somebody that we do business with. You know, you kind of want to work together with people that you've had a good experience with, you know, and it was important to them, and so you treat them as if they were your partner anyway, and so it was very easy to do it, and I mean, I could have picked one of 5 or 6 firms, but and so it's nice to say, hey, we closed the largest construction loan ever in the state of Florida, and Ares provided the debt. Mm-hmm. So I mean, that's a pretty, compelling reason.
How are you thinking about the ownership structure of the Dolphins long term? You pointed out, obviously, you still have control. How are you thinking about succession these days?
Well, I mean, I'm fortunate I'm going to keep it in the family. Mm-hmm. My son-in-law, who is, I think, he's involved in sports. He had worked for me before he married my daughter, so he really he is terrific, and he will kind of run it, will stay in the family. I mean, I don't think there's a better asset, People say, I know what I've been offered. I mean, numbers you wouldn't believe, but you look at...
What kind of numbers? I'd be curious.
I mean, close to 15 billion. Pretty high numbers. Yep. But you say, well, where would you put the money? Then what would I do with it? I mean, putting the money into the assets and providing the capital for the things we're doing here in Florida. One, I don't have to go all around looking for equity, mm-hmm. And at the same time, I think the growth of that is much greater going to be than the team. And so if I sell 10, 20%, I have total control, and I also have all the capital to fuel the businesses. And I think, fortunately, I'm able to really, being involved in South Florida, make the idea of what I see happen, and so it's good fuel, if they say.
So one last question before we open it up to Q&A. I did want to ask about Florida politics. DeSantis has 1 more year in office. I mean, do you see getting involved in the next election? And if so, what are the most pressing issues for you?
Well, I mean, what's important here, from politics standpoint, is really to see the continuation of the government here in West Palm Beach. I mean, the leadership here is phenomenal, and working, and they're doing things for the right reasons, and working together with them, you're seeing what we're able to accomplish in making this city, the best place, and really, in dealing with the whole, county, from that. But I've never really been actively involved in politics, and so, I mean, you want to have the best people leading the state, as possible in this country. But and the impact is really at the local level when you're in the real estate business. It's not at the national level.
Great, thank you. Well, I'd like to open it up to our audience here. If there are any questions anyone would like to ask.
Hi, Steve. I'd love to hear a bit more about your approach to expansion of businesses down here, maybe using the ServiceNow example, and how are you actually getting these companies to either move headquarters or build kind of HQs down here?
Well, I mean, today most of the growth here has really been financial service-oriented companies and the service industries that go with that. And so I think the biggest, getting ServiceNow, we were very fortunate. I had a relationship with Bill McDermott, who was the CEO. I know he was formerly the CEO of SAP, and he was in Philadelphia. He was looking in New York, and I got him at Hudson Yards in New York. We developed a friendship, and he had, when he was at SAP, had a home in Palm Beach, which was very fortunate. So when I approached him and explained to him what we were doing here and seeing the growth and where the country's growing, he totally agreed with me. He first thought about Miami, and then we brought him here, and we were able to sell the idea of West Palm Beach. Why Palm Beach County as opposed to Miami? And so I think these are, what was the main part of that question I was trying to answer?
Just talking about companies relocating here
So,
or
so
building
we, I
their
mean, so we
second
got
headquarters.
them, but I think they're really going to be, people are looking at that now. The biggest thing today, I think the biggest issue we have is that people don't realize how good a business environment it is in Florida, and especially California and the tech firms. They have no familiarity with Florida at all. So selling the idea of how good, when they come here and they see all the benefits, especially after being in California or New York or Illinois, Massachusetts, that's the hardest thing that we have to do, is to communicate that and let people know, what it is, at the C-suite level. And that's our challenge.
Great, thank you. I think there was a question in the back there.
Hi. When I look at cities across America, particularly where young people have really wanted to live historically, Los Angeles, San Francisco, New York, most of those cities are in decline amongst that age group. And so I'm wondering how you think about building a great city that young people want to come to and live in versus kind of running a great city in a sustainable way. And if there's any things that you're trying to avoid or challenges that you've seen those municipalities have that you're working with the public sector to sort of sidestep.
Well, I think you want to make a city really a place where young people want to be. Recognizing, that's the biggest obstacle we have to overcome. Young people don't want to be with old people, but old people want to be with young people. So it's just a fact. You think about it. So what we have to do is to create that place. And knowing it, people look at Palm Beach, because of Palm Beach, as a place for your grandparents. You got to be realistic of what your obstacles are. So we're doing everything to really create West Palm Beach as a place where young people want to be. So it's dealing with restaurants, which is really the greatest form of entertainment. But bringing those type of events for them, like we have the Palm Festival that's coming here February 14th. That's where, I don't even, Kago, is that the name? Kygo. And most, people, above 50 never heard of these people before. But, we're bringing events and types of things that young people want to be part of. I personally believe there's a lot of fatigue with Miami, and that when people look at both, they're going to see the advantages of Palm Beach. But it's for us to really bring those type of things to the city and those events and venues that young people are looking for today. And if we don't do that, we're not going to be successful.
So anyone who has been to Hard Rock Stadium has maybe had some issues with traffic, and I was wondering what some of your solutions are there. We've seen some headlines about flying cars. Can you just tell us a little bit about the logistics of sort of getting in and out of Hard Rock? And
traffic is a good thing from one perspective. If people didn't want to be there, you wouldn't have the traffic. So, what we've done at Hard Rock Stadium, we have these black lanes, they call them, for people there that are can get in and out very easily. Like everything in life, if you want something that other people don't have, it costs money. So, they're for the people who pay for the more expensive tickets, get these passes for that. But you got to be aware of what the issues are so you can deal with them and really, kind of do the best you can. When you're going to have a lot of people and you have games and they start at one time and they're all end at the same time, you're going to have traffic. But I don't think it's really been a problem. It's been an issue. I don't think it has anything at all, have any impact at all on our attendance, because we have tried to really fix those type of issues. And it's ever talks about, you go to a place, you say it's so noisy. That's a good news from the owners, because people weren't there, it wouldn't be very good anyway. So certain things you learn to live with.
Great. I think we have time for one more question.
Hi, Deborah Costa here from the Wall Street Journal. You mentioned all the defense that we have down here in South Florida, and I can't help but think of some of the recent events, for example, what happened in Venezuela and our place in South Florida as a gateway to Latin America. Do you see any effects there? Do you see any potential growth that might happen here or some other thing that might happen here because of some of these recent actions in Latin America?
Well, I mean, South Florida is really, especially Miami, has been the capital of Latin America, if you will, and what impact that will have, I don't know. I mean, like today, that people today are concerned, especially from Latin America, with our policy, of immigration policy. And the fact is, what the government has kind of closed the borders. So, I mean, it's hard to guess what could happen. People said, look, if Cuba opened up, would all the Cubans would Cubans go back there? Probably not, because of the standard of living what they have in this country. I mean, and if you open our borders up, would more people come in? Absolutely. That's why our borders are closed. So, I mean, I think what's happened there, I think it gives a lot of opportunities to those countries. I think people will go back, maybe that have been here a long time, but they have family there. They might establish second homes there. But I think once you get used to the American, lifestyle here, it's a hard place to leave, for these countries, especially the situation they're in, But, yeah.
I'm told we have time. We can sneak one more in here, so this is our last one for real.
Hi, thank you. Patricia Massey from the New York Times. In trying to lure some of these companies and in trying to help the city, I'm wondering what you make of the proposal floating in Tallahassee to get rid of property taxes for homesteads.
Well, Florida has a homestead law that, that protects the payment of tax, that protects the real estate taxes of homeowners to use that homestead exemption. And so it's not as dependent as much upon the economy upon those taxes, and that's why there's talk of that. The problem really is for the local communities, where they're going to get those taxes. They probably would tax the commercial businesses, which would be very, I think, harmful. I hear that legislation, while DeSantis has it, isn't really going anywhere and probably will not happen. I don't think it's on the agenda of the candidates that are going to succeed him.
Well, thank you so much for joining us, and thank you to our audience for all the questions.